My friends, we're going to talk about the water element personality types. So far, I have done the earth element personality, the metal element personality. Today, we're going to explore water, and still to come is wood and fire. And for those of you that have been enjoying those past episodes, I know that y'all been patiently waiting because you're like, what am I? Am I water? Am I wood? Am I metal? You know, I get it. I get it. It's a good time to learn and understand about ourselves. The reasons people are the way they are, the way they behave is because of their elemental makeup. They can't help it. They are who they are. Now, when we know that about someone or we know that about ourselves, that's when we can sort of adjust how we associate to ourselves, how we treat ourselves and others, right? A little bit of understanding goes a long way. But before we dive into the water element personality type, I am recording today in what is going to be my new office. It's a little boring right now. As you can see from behind me, I just have this gray wall. I'm patching some holes that you can see behind me, but everything else is set up for podcasting because I wanted to get this out to you today. But I spent the weekend redecorating, I should say rearranging two of the rooms. When we first moved into this rental, so I have a home that when you walk in to the left, there's 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and then the rest of the house is in the back of the house, like the living space, dining room, kitchen, 2 more bedrooms. It's a rather large home, but most of the living is in the back of the home. And when we first moved in, I gave my son one of the back rooms because it had its own bathroom. He's entering those teenage years, so it fits for him. And my daughter was like, well, I want this front bedroom because this front bedroom is, as you can tell, it's bright and airy, and it faces the front of the house. And directly adjacent to that is a guest bedroom. And it's a little more darker in there. The sun doesn't hit it all day long like it does in this front room. So I could see why she gravitated towards it. But now that she's been in it a little longer, I think she wants a little more dark privacy. She's always in there with the lights out, or maybe just has some twinkle lights on. So I was like, maybe she would like that room better because there is a dedicated office right off of the kitchen in the back of the house, but there's no privacy. There's no doors on the room. I've never treated it like an office. Like I had a desk and my chair in there, but I always took my laptop into the dining room. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you've probably seen past videos. You see like my living room and my kitchen all around me because I was recording in the dining room. It's probably the only other room in this house that gets great lighting. And so I would just move there. And I finally was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm running a company. Like, I'm working every single day at home and I'm sitting at my dining room table. Like, I need a dedicated space. I need light, bright energy, right? We're going to talk about it in a minute, but I'm ready to step into this expansive role as a business owner and I'm ready to be seen. And that's when it clicked. It was like me sitting in the back of the house, not really having a dedicated space to do my work. It felt like I was in some sense hiding, that I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not allowing myself to be seen. And so that's when I asked my daughter, how would you feel about switching up the bedrooms? Because I would really love your room to be my office. So we're in the middle of swapping things out. I'm really excited. I still have some redecorating to do. Like I still have a guest bed in here that I need to get rid of. I'm going to hang some stuff on the walls. I'm going to get some drapery. I'm excited. I haven't really decorated since we left Pittsburgh, to be honest. Our homes in Texas were just basic, bare, like we just need to eat, sleep, and like sit somewhere in the evening. I'm missing my creative design and decorating roots, so I'm excited to work on my office this winter. So that's how my weekend has been. The other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is that I officially closed Shop Elemental at the end of November, and I just want to express my gratitude to everyone who has supported the shop from its inception, but especially as I closed the doors just a few weeks ago. Shop Elemental started honestly as a way to bridge my love for product sourcing, the part of interior design that I actually really enjoyed, with this new venture of creating energetic spaces. Every item in the shop represented one of the 5 elements, and it was a way to bring in decor and goods from an intentional perspective. You need a little element, here's some objects you can bring into your space. You need a little fire, here's some objects to bring into your space. So I was very intentional with the shop, but with all of the things that I have coming up, it was a little too hard for me to manage. Not just the inventory and the stock, but also just packaging, shipping, delivering, the orders. It was a lot on top of everything else I've got running. I have a lot of amazing projects coming up in 2026 that I'm excited to be sharing with y'all soon, but I needed to somehow rethink the shop. So the shop is not going away completely. Later in 2026, I will be launching mindbodyhome.shop. .com is taken, so we're going .shop. It is going to still be home goods and an apothecary for intentional decorating and thoughtful living, but it will be in a way that I do not have to manage the inventory and shipping, delivering, and all of the things. So I'm taking a totally new direction, and I am so excited about it. I do not have a date as to when it will be live, but I'm hoping sometime in the next year. So just a final word of thanks to everyone who has supported me and the shop. So I was talking to you a little bit about moving my office, being seen more in 2026, okay? Here's why. I want to expand my visibility with Mind Body Home. I'm looking to get press features, media features, putting myself out there on podcasts more. Really have a lot of good, juicy things to share with the world, but I have been hiding. I will just come out and say it. I'm just going to put it out there. I have been hiding. So moving my office is sort of the first step in being more visible to the people who need my work or want to hear about my work. And I've always been a little private of a person, okay? So it's a challenge for me. Being the face of a company as an introvert is not easy. It's not. So if any of my introverts out there, you get this, right? But as we wrap up 2025 and we start welcoming in the new year, we are also welcoming a completely new energy, a new timeline, like a new way of living that is really going to shake things up. So 2025 was a shedding of the last 18, 20 years. I talked about this in depth in seasonal alignment practice. I've talked about it in past workshops and podcast episodes. We are wrapping up the year of the snake, the wood snake. So huge themes around shedding, leaving behind old skin, right? And while that's very essential for any sort of growth, right? In 2026, we're going to be welcoming in a year of the fire element and the horse. Now, I don't get too engrossed in the Chinese zodiac and the animals on this podcast, but it is something that I do study, that I do appreciate learning about. And I will be sharing a little bit more of this in future episodes, probably in January. But I'll touch on it here because it'll kind of help segue us into the water element personality type, which is the actual theme of today's conversation. So the energy next year is all about momentum, gaining speed, right? The horse is galloping ahead. And the fire element, because every year there's an element and an animal associated to it, the fire element is calling for visibility, right? And sustainability. And if you think about a fireplace or a fire pit, sitting around it, you have to keep adding wood to keep the fire going. You need to sustain the fire. You might need to stoke it a bit, right? Refine a few things, tweak a few things. So this fire energy that we have coming next year, and again, I'm going to do more in a future episode, is expansive. It's high energy. It's leaning into our extroverted selves, trying new things that maybe scare us a little bit. Maybe that's meeting new people, connecting with, things that light you up and actually taking action on them, things that you're really passionate about. These are all key characteristics of fire energy. Now, this is not an episode on the fire element. It's actually on fire's opposite, water. But before we enter this new yang energy of fire, we still need to close out the year of the wood snake, that shedding. And with that shedding almost comes this energy depletion, right? Where energy just totally slows down. Maybe you feel a little extra tired. For those of you that are highly intuitive and you're really tapped into your energetic state, you might be feeling this tiredness, this heaviness as the year starts to close. And so seasonally speaking, we are in the water element now, along with the season of winter, of course. And it's as if we need this resting phase before we enter the new year, especially being the fact that it's a yang high energy year with that fire element and the galloping horse, right? It sounds exhausting already. So we need this time to rest, replenish, and just restore so that we are ready to move into this next year prepared and ready to go, right? So that's where we are now. We're in this resting phase with the water element and the winter season. So again, I'm going to talk about the water element as a personality type for today. And as I mentioned, I already did earth and metal a few episodes back. You don't have to go too far back. And later I'll also be doing wood and fire to kind of wrap up all of them. But for all my water element people, this is your season. And even if you're not dominated by water, this season, it benefits all elements to lean into some aspect of water, which you're going to learn about here. So for a long time, I thought I was a dominant water type, and I'm not. I'm actually a wood type. Water is, however, my secondary. When I first started working with the elements, learning about them, I was in a heavy water season. It was right before, during, after COVID, like most of the world. I was getting ready to leave my full-time corporate job. I was leaning into what was next. I was going through my own spiritual awakening. I was consumed by self-development, self-awareness. I was working with coaches, learning how to lean into intuition more and, the natural world to help guide me. And on the outside, I probably looked like I had it all together. Here I was taking my side hustle full time, finally able to quit my day job, teaching others about intuition, starting a podcast, expanding my business into a whole new realm of things. But on the inside, I quite honestly felt a little bit lost and a little bit disoriented. The world outside of me really felt foreign for the first time in my life. And I just didn't feel like I was connecting with people in the same way. I watched a lot of relationships in my life sort of dissipate. So I was going through a water phase in my life. And now that I'm out of that phase, I'm really leaning into what is my natural element. And for me, that is wood. And so maybe you're feeling that. Maybe, you're feeling it now, or you have felt that, and you can relate to what I'm talking about. This is the time when we want to lean into the water element. Okay, this is the time to go inward, to deeply self-reflect, to find that inner light, which can only be found in the dark. Water represents that darkness, right? In nature, it's the season of winter. It's cold and dark. It gets darker earlier, right? It's the depths of the ocean, the underworld. It's midnight in a 24-hour cycle. It's both the death and the rebirth cycle of plants, humans, animals, anything else that needs to be let go of or renewed. So for those that are a dominant water element, and remember, we are encompassed of all elements. We just feel connected to one or two primarily. My mentor, Tisha Morris, in her book, I believe it was Missing Element, Hidden Strength, I remember she made a comment that we're all made up of the same recipe. We just have different amounts of each ingredient. I loved that analogy, but we have one or two element where we just feel most at home and comfortable with. So let's just start by looking at a couple common water types and their personalities or characteristics. So water types tend to be quiet, reflective, introverted. They're highly intuitive. They're deeply creative. And they're definitely homebodies. They do live in their heads a lot. They're philosophical. They have this drive to understand things at a very deep level. They often contemplate the world and the people and what drives them and why. They love to read and they love to go deep in conversation. And they want that conversation, that deep conversation, they want that reciprocated. So they won't necessarily talk in groups and crowds. They want one-on-one connection and they want that deep connection. And, sometimes other people might consider them a little bit of a loner too. They like to work alone. They don't like group activities. They don't like big crowds. So career-wise, they might pursue things like writing, the arts, counseling, the healing arts. You'll see a lot of songwriters, actors. A lot of them are creative artists. But waters, they can also be very playful, right? They can be silly and funny. And they like to goof around a little bit. But I find that it's really only with people that they trust. So it might just be a partner or a best friend or maybe a sibling. They don't necessarily share that playful side of themselves with everyone, and certainly not publicly at all. So the world that we live in is very high energy. It's constant go, 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 right? It's yang energy. But waters, they bring a balance to that, I think. They move at a much slower pace, their own pace, okay? They are not going to move quickly. They don't want to be rushed. They have a lot of patience. They're never in a hurry, okay? So you're never going to rush a water element. Could be frustrating if you live with the water and you are a wood or a fire because you are ready to go. And water is it's kind of like a turtle, it's very intentional about what it's doing, but it's going to go at its own pace. And so let's look at the emotion. The emotion tied to water is fear, okay? So you might recognize yourself or other people as a water element if there's a strong sense of fear kind of all the time with them. And what do I mean by that? They might easily feel insecure. Maybe they're afraid of success, or they're just afraid of everyday things, disasters happening. They tend to what's the word I'm looking for? They tend to expect the worst, or they get very easily upset at the news or the state of the world. And then they just go into this almost panic state. They might be afraid of how they're perceived, so they care a lot about what other people think of them, which ties right into the insecurity piece. They might be afraid of leaning into something new or a relationship because they don't want to get hurt, or they might find themselves in an unwanted situation, so they just don't take any action. So they won't go for it, essentially. And so out of balance waters, they And remember, we all have a little bit of this in us, but we can easily be out of balance. We can have too much water, we can have too little water. So let's talk about just some imbalances of waters. They might be withdrawn from people, society, their own family, right? They'd like to be alone, but if they're out of balance, they can be a little too isolated. And because they do live in their minds, they're described as philosophical. They're always thinking, so they can be prone to things like depression. They can get it in their head that nobody understands them. They are very easily overwhelmed. They might lack motivation and commitment to things. They have a hard time carrying projects forward and tasks through to completion. They would 100% prefer someone else to handle all of the nitty-gritty details. They're sort of like the ideation of something. Like, so if you're in a group project or, let's just take a work environment and you're working on a team project, the water element type is going to be great at ideation, coming up with the creative pieces. But when it comes to taking action, executing, completing, worrying about the details, that's someone else's job. The water element doesn't want anything to do with it. So let's talk a little bit about the body and water element. So in traditional Chinese medicine, water is tied to the bladder and the kidneys, right? Both responsible for filtering and releasing toxic fluids and waste from the body. So if you are prone to bladder infections, kidney stones, or other urinary complications, you might have an imbalanced water. Something as simple as increasing your water intake or maybe even adding a little amount of sea salt to your diet or even your water can support urinary function and water flow of the body. Full disclaimer here, I'm clearly not a physician. This is strictly informational, right? The intention is to just connect a dot. And if you do connect some dot, you are experiencing some urinary dysfunctions. Of course, you need to consult your physician or see an acupuncturist or someone in the medical field that can help you connect the dots even further. In addition to adding more water to your diet, the kidneys and bladder also love foods with ginger, parsley, garlic. Cauliflower is a good one. I actually have cravings for cauliflower at times. And I have just, for myself, have just noticed that when I have these cravings, I probably need to up my water intake because my body is telling me, this is the intuitive piece, guys. My body is telling me that my water element is feeling depleted. My kidneys are feeling depleted. Something is feeling depleted. So whenever you have those food cravings, it's actually really interesting to do some research on what is it about that fruit, vegetable, grain, herb, plant, whatever. Why is your body craving that? I love when those little things come up. So what else besides cauliflower? I think that's it. No, there's also, I think, like apples, berries, watermelon, unrefined olive oil is all really great for kidney and bladder function. So let's shift to the home. Waters have a tendency to live quite comfortably amongst their clutter. So it's not unusual for their homes to feel cluttered or like there's a lack of space. There's no comfortable place to sit. There is probably for them, but when they have others living with them or guests over, it's kind of like, where do I sit? There's no real flow. So this is pretty common that I find with water elements. Not everything has a home, right? We always hear that in organization is like everything should have a home, not in a water's house. Okay, there's a bit of disorganization, but the thing with waters is that it doesn't bother them, right? A lot of clients will say, I can't function in my house anymore. They're overwhelmed by it. That's not my water people. Water people are totally content it being the way that it is. Now, it might bother other people in the home, right? But especially if they're living with like a metal element who's extremely organized, it's usually a bad situation. But water elements, they also like their home to be dark. They forget to open the blinds or open the windows to let in fresh light, fresh air, right? The front of their home, maybe not even the front, but the front, the back, any of the windows are they're always covered. Outside, the bushes are overgrown, right? The whole entry has like a cluttered feel. There's overgrown bushes, too many trees. You might not be able to see the front door. That's an out of balance water element. In fact, it's so fun. I teach my daughter and my son. I talked about my daughter a lot because she's like into it, where my son, he's just like, yeah, mom, that's cool. But she actually, shows an interest in some of this stuff. But now when we go on walks, like I love teaching her, like, that's a yin house, or that house is very yang, or like, oh, look, this house has a perfect balance of all the elements in their front yard. And you can just tell by the people that you see coming in and out of their homes, how they're dressed, what elements they're attracted to, or just by the presentation of the front entry of their home says a lot about a person's elemental makeup. And so we find it fun. It's fun to hear her actually learn and tell me what kind of home or what kind of person is living there. So that's a good time. So you might recognize yourself or someone you know as a water. I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic, and definitely let me know, are you a dominant water, or do you need to add a little more water to your life? Because if you are a wood or a fire element and you're always on the go, you might need to embrace that water energy to help you slow down, take some time to rest, build in some quiet reflection time. Okay, water nurtures us in a way that brings life to something new. It helps us not burn out all the time. If you're in a water phase, or, a season of life that is heavily water, like I was describing before, and it's feeling a little uncomfortable for you, just know that it is just a season. It's just a cycle for you. You're not going to be here forever. If it feels overwhelming, it probably is not your dominant type, and you're just in that cycle or season. So that discomfort is there for a reason. And with any feeling or any emotion, it's best to not push it away, ignore it, get frustrated with it. Just try to find peace with it. Try to find a way to just let it be there and let it support you in the way that it wants to. So, embrace the downtime, the stillness, the great pause. Okay. If you have too much water, you can add a little bit of earth to help contain it a bit more. So you can add earth elements to your decor, to the way you dress, to the foods you eat. Earth element is all about mother energy, right? So nourishing yourself, loving yourself, parenting your mindset, right? Always being on the mind and calling it out when it's just ruminating, okay? Calming your fears, all of those things mothers do quite naturally. So that's a way to remember that earth supports water when there's too much water going on, okay? It's all a balance, my friends. I love the elements so much. They provide so much guidance and wisdom to help explain the complexities of being a human. And the more I lean into them, I discover more about myself and the people that I interact with. I think that understanding the elements, learning about them, has truly changed my life. And when I first discovered this system, something really clicked. These elements aren't just personality types. They're not just relationship dynamics. They are a living rhythm that runs through our seasons, through each day, through our homes, right? And even, our dreams and goals and where we are in life. And, that's what I'm going to quickly just end with talking about seasonal alignment. And that's exactly why I created this practice. Seasonal alignment practice with the 5 elements is a year-long membership, and it's designed to help you plan and live in alignment with your own inner rhythm, your environment, and your deepest desires. Because, I say this quite frequently, Most of us only set our goals in January, and then we spend the rest of the year chasing distractions and wondering why we feel so out of sync, right? But what if we learn to live more seasonally? What would happen if we revisited goals and dreams all throughout the year with the permission to pivot and realign when necessary? So in this membership, we gather each season for a live quarterly planning workshop, all rooted in the energy of that particular element at the time. And each session helps you to reconnect with those dreams, with those goals, so you're moving through your year with more clarity, in alignment, and making more meaningful progress. Now, in between each session, each quarterly session, you will also be receiving resources, worksheets, printable guides, audio reflections, decorating tips, planning tools, all of it to keep your energy, your home, all of it in sync. Of course, we're also going to weave in insights from mind, body, and home framework so that you're not just setting goals, but you're actually creating a lifestyle that supports all of it, all of you, right? So this membership is going to be $297 starting in 2026. But I want you to join me now for only $97. Our next workshop is happening on December 19th and is focused on this topic, the water element and the season of winter. And we're going to be gathering just before the winter solstice so that you can close out your year ready to step into that first half of 2026 with clarity, gratitude, and preparation for your expansive year ahead with the fire horse. I'll be doing a live workshop. I think I'm going to do it live on the fire horse as well. If you sign up before the 18th, you'll also be enrolled in our upcoming workshops, which is spring and wood element, and again, in the summertime, fire element. And you're also going to receive my past fall metal workshop and all of the accompanying resources that I've already provided to the group. I've had a few participants tell me that this seasonal practice is transformative and exceptional, which I love those two words. I'm really excited for you to experience it too. If you've been following this podcast, this is the membership, right? Like this is what I preach, given to you in a format that is easily accessible, greatly affordable. And I know that resources can be tight during the holiday season. So all I can really say to you is just consider this to be a gift to yourself. I decided to stop waiting for January to realign my life. I started living seasonally on purpose, all guided by the elements. And it has been a wonderful experience. And so I'm excited to share this practice with you as well. Okay, the link to join is in the show notes, of course. The $97 offer expires on December 18th. And if you enroll this year before the 18th, you are grandfathered in at that $97 rate should you decide to join us again at the next fall enrollment period. There will be added benefits at that time. I'm thinking of adding a monthly call to the program, along with, I'm really hoping to get a 2026 seasonal planning journal created in print for this practice. And so all of that is to come next year. But again, the price is going to be significantly higher next year. So if this even a little bit sounds enticing, this is the time to join us. Okay, that's all for now, my friends. Until next time, I'm sending you so much love and gratitude.